Namaste friends, this is Jayalakshmi Ravichandran signing in on behalf of Magic Needles. This video is pertaining to letter E in Filet Crochet. The very first row is 61 DCs or 20 solid squares. Second, third and fourth rows are one solid square on either side with 18 open squares in between. Okay, it is a mesh. You can also call it a mesh. I call it solid squares. And the pattern begins from the fifth row. All the odd rows are the right side and the even rows are left side. Wrong side. Odd rows are read from right to left and the even rows are read from left to right and worked. Okay. Now 1, 2, 3, 4, fifth row where the pattern begins. One solid square, 7 open squares, 4 solid squares, 7 open squares and 1 solid square. The sixth row, 1 solid square, 6 open squares, 2 solid squares, 3 open squares, 1 solid square, 6 open squares and 1 solid square. The seventh row, 1 solid square, 10 open squares, 2 solid squares, 6 open squares and 1 solid square. The eighth row, 1 solid square, it's read from left to right, 6 open squares, 2 solid squares, 1 open square, 2 solid squares, 7 open squares and 1 solid square. Okay. Now we are in the ninth row. Ninth row, 1 solid square, 8 open squares, 2 solid squares, 8 open squares and 1 solid square. The 10th row, 1 solid square, 8 open squares, 2 solid squares, 8 open squares and 1 solid square. 11th row, 1 solid square, 5 open squares, 2 solid squares, 1 open square, 2 solid squares, 8 open squares and 1 solid square. Okay. 12th row, 1 solid square, 3, 6, 9 open squares, 2 solid squares, 1 open square, 1 open square, 1 solid square, 5 open squares and 1 solid square. The 13th row, 1 solid square, 5 open squares, 3 solid squares, 10 open squares and 1 solid square. 14th, 15th and 16th as usual are 1 solid square on either side of the row with 18 open meshes in between or open squares in between, and the 17th row is 20 solid squares or 61 DCs. You place 1 DC on DC and then you will place 2 DCs when it comes to the chain space, and then you will have 61 DCs to finish with. Thank you friends for watching. Have a nice day. I'll meet you with letter F in the next video.